So, ladies and gentlemen, today on Screenshots, we're going to take a very important look at one of the most important villains of what I consider the silver age of comic book movies. Now, for many out there who've already seen a movie, you know what we're going to be talking about, but for the uninitiated, you're going to be very, very intrigued by my presentation today. It concerns the villain of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from 1982, Conan the Barbarian. Of course, we're going to be talking about the leader of what I consider the greatest snake cult in fictional comic book history, Thulsa Doom. Now, Conan the Barbarian is a 1982 American fantasy adventure film, which was directed and co-written by the some people think the genius. I think he's kind of a partial hack, John Milius. The original plot or script of Conan was written by all people Oliver Stone, and a lot of the his concepts were still in the Milius final presentation. Now it's based on the stories by Robert E. Howard, who was a pulp fiction writer of the 1930s, about the adventures of Conan, and it covered everything from dark magic to savagery and these quests to hold on and capture his destined kingdom. Now, Conan Barbarian comic books became big in the Marvel universe in the 60s and early 70s. Call the Conqueror is also in the mix. Now, there is a Thulsa Doom in the Call the Conqueror series, but this has only a passing connection with the Thulsa Doom of Conan. Now, I said in the previous podcast that the opening Riddle of Steel scene to Conan ranks as one of the greatest of all time, and the whole movie's plot comes down to the Riddle of Steel. Now, because the Riddle of Steel created strength in Conan through his father, and he learned the power of swordsmanship at an early age. At the start of this film, Thulsa Doom, who basically wants his own power grab, decides to raid the village of his father. That also includes his mother and various other family members, to steal a very specific sword designed by Conan's father. Now, as the plot goes along in this Dino De Laurentiis production, who also did actually King Kong, the revival, and different stuff, very, very interesting producer. Conan has to seek vengeance for the death of his parents at the hands of Thulsa Doom when he raids his village. Now, ideas for the movie started as early as 1970, but didn't come about until late 70s, early 80s, because very few people had the physical capacity to play Conan. And when the thoughts of Thulsa Doom were coming in, James Earl Jones, who did not play the physical presence of Darth Vader, played the voice of Darth Vader. David Prowse, the infamous person who played Darth Vader but didn't was allowed to do the voice. In the plot, the sword in question is forged by Conan's father, and he's also the one of the main blacksmith for the Sumerians. Now, one day the Sumerians are massacred by members of Thulsa Doom's key battle group, and Conan's father, well, he's killed by Thulsa Doom, but actually it's dogs, but it's attack dogs, but it's neither here nor there. And the sword is taken by Doom and he uses to decapitate Conan's mother, and Thulsa Doom uses his hypnotic gaze, which comes up many times in the movie, to stop Conan's mother retaliating, and eventually becomes a slave for Thulsa Doom's group. Now he's sold into slavery and works at a large mill, but when he finally escapes as a grown man, he becomes his own what do you call path in life, and his main goal, obsessive, is to basically track down Doom, kill him. And we find out later on that Doom has given up the Riddle of Steel, or the strength to steal, and he's now running a snake cult. And according to legend that Conan is talking about, either they're running powerful or mystical, snakes, or Doom himself has learned to turn himself into snakes to basically become the more stronger. But here's the deal: the plot is not the important thing. The plot wouldn't work unless you have a strong actor behind it. James Earl Jones as Thulsa Doom eats up scenery like you wouldn't believe in this. It's Shakespearean, it's evil, it's satanic, it's snake satanic, or what do you call it, snake cult. Very, it shows the aspect of how that type of the time of the world where different cults were showing up. The cinematography is very barren. It looks extremely like Good, the Bad, the Ugly meets, an Italian, religious or sandal epic. But every scene that James Earl Jones is in, he eats it up. And Conan the Barbarian is played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold wasn't a great actor at the time. He's still learning his craft. I think playing off James Earl Jones, and James was a very, I guess, friendly actor to get along with. He really helped the actors on the show. But you got to understand there's a big connection with all aspects of Shakespearean and other genres in this movie. Max von Sydow plays the king whose daughter has been entranced by Thulsa Doom, and he's the one that encourages Conan to take the last step to kill Thulsa Doom, because two things involving Conan's life: it's money and revenge. And Max von Sydow's king gives him an opportunity to make much money to take down Thulsa Doom. But in the plot of it, like I said, the music, the presentation, the minimalism of the Thulsa Doom character. As soon as you look at James Earl Jones with a long, shaggy haircut, very actually, if I had better hair, it'd be similar to mine because of very long hair. It just basically, you can't take your eyes off Thulsa Doom, what he's going to do next. He's pure evil. There's not one moment of his performance where he shows kindness or even bravery or even, positivity towards his own people. It's a manipulative character. There's only one person that's just as evil currently as Thulsa Doom, and you all know who he is. I'm not going to use the T word, but you can figure it out for yourself. Because of a lot in connection. They're looking for power, they're looking for manipulation, they'll lie, cheat, and steal, and use confusion and anger to their own means. Now, Thulsa Doom in the movie, like any heroic end, there's a big confrontation between Conan, or like the main character, which is Thulsa Doom, Conan and Thulsa Doom. Not going to give it away. I don't give away movies here, but I mean, Conan is such a good movie because not only what Schwarzenegger does, because I think Thulsa Doom only appears in about 15 total minutes, either as a presence. And there's some interesting scenes with Thulsa Doom, how he can manipulate snakes, how he can manipulate people. His transformation, he is proven to be a shapeshifter, gothic evil, or fantasy evil. Like it's quite interesting. There was thoughts that the movie character of Thulsa Doom would be brought back in a prequel. We have not seen that yet. I think it's so perfect of a performance that no one really wants to touch it too much. And considering the only other version of Conan that made any sense was Conan the Destroyer, which is sequel, is more actually, cartoony, like TV cartoons rather than a pure thriller. This is a thriller. Now, I think the Oliver Stone scripting hasn't been talked about much, but I think that had a lot to do with Thulsa Doom because, Thulsa Doom needed a good head to put together. There's a conciseness in Stone's writing style, and Millie's as well, and this is seen in Thulsa Doom. But James Earl Jones, one of the greatest actors of all time, one of the greatest presidents of all time. My God, he's the voice of CNN. And in this movie, again, you can go back to Conan again and again and again and again and again, and you notice something that you love, or notice something new, like the the two Thulsa Doom lackeys who look like the buffed up version of the two male creators of ABBA. A friend of mine that I went to high school with saw Conan again just a couple of months ago. We were talking. He was talking about that. He said, "Why did you tell me they look like the people from ABBA?" Well, I said, "If you didn't know that, if you shaved them and give them better shape." But there is actually some interesting scenes with Thulsa Doom were left in, even though there was an error of the taping or the presentation. And but let me tell you, I've never seen anybody go out at Halloween as Thulsa Doom. Maybe they're too scared. Maybe the spirit of Thulsa Doom will come back and wreak havoc. And I have a new respect for people who are into cults, because let me tell let me tell you, it takes guts to join a cult, because my God, uh, the cult of Conan the Barbarian I belong to. I'm a cultist with Conan the Barbarian. I think it's the greatest comic book movie of all time. These Avengers series and all, like, craziness, it's all bullshit. I mean, Conan is a perfect movie. I don't care what myself. I'll be in my deathbed, and somebody coming up, he said, "We'll give you the cure for your cancer that's killing you if you renounce Conan the Barbarian." I said, I would tell him, say like Steve Earle, keep moving on, brother. Sometimes perfection is just that. And where is James Earl Jones' Oscar nomination for Thulsa Doom? That's another. That's what inspired the podcast. A performance as so strong as that, and did not get award-winning and recognized. Quite strange. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, another kind of half-wet day in New Brunswick. Just back from St. John, had a nice trip down there. And to my podcast listeners, the Brunswick Independent Authors Association, another project going on. Keep an eye out for podcasts. Please give a like, a comment, or subscribe or request. Please let me know how we're doing with our podcasts. And again, say like we say at the old Bayview Drive-In in Beresford, New Brunswick. If you like it, tell your friends. If you don't like it, don't tell nobody. Have a good day. Crom. Bye.